first started on this project, I wanted to create the world first. I wanted to start with a visual world of what these characters looked like and what the whole place was. Um, Plants, trees, rocks, all of that. Start with that first and then have the story grow. And so that was what we did. You know, we began thinking about this, and about the same time we started thinking about it, I saw some of the work of Brian Froud, and I immediately loved it. I thought it would be the sort of thing that was just right for this particular idea, and his concepts visually were the type of thing that we could translate into 3 dimensions. In terms of making the puppets, we used so many of the different crafts. I mean, we had used jewelry makers, wig makers, people who worked in latex, foam, leather, wood carvers, you name it, and we used it. Casting in plastics, casting in bronze, all of those, the crafts we were using heavily. Most of the eyes were made of glass. We did a number of them of plastic, which we made and painted ourselves. But we went through many different test eyes to arrive at the correct one for each creature. The eye movement was created and operated in a variety of ways. Some of it was radio controlled, some was operated by cables. We usually had them going side to side. We usually built in a blink, widening and narrowing of the eye. So much of the personality is dependent on that, and you read the changes of emotion through the eyes. Approximately a year before we began shooting the film, we had a casting session and we chose a group of performers. They were mostly dancers, mimes, clowns, acrobats, and this was all under the direction of Jean-Pierre Amiel, who is a Swiss mime, and he himself was a marvelous performer. And so he worked with this group over the next 8 months, devising the way each of these kinds of characters would move and how they would walk. We were looking for people who could express their entire performance with their body. We look for the same sort of thing when we look for puppeteers, people who can do their entire performance in their hand, you know. And these guys had to do it with their full body.
Draw across, line into turn, curl the water in, water falls, twist, and
I'm afraid there was something up. Okay. One of our mimes, whose name was Robbie Barnett, was a clown and a stilt walker. And he came into the rehearsal hall one day with his 10-foot stilts, and he got up on them and he was showing people how he was moving around. And I think it was Brian Froud that saw him on the stilts, and all of a sudden, had this great realization, and it was aha. And so he immediately began designing what could be done with 4 stilts. And so he put stilts on his hands as well as on his feet, and they roughed a shape over him, and we started designing the Landstrider.
The Landstriders were designed really as a mode of transport. Part of the brief was that they had to run like the wind. And this was a phrase that stuck in my mind. And how did you design a creature that could move fast? We found that a man on stilts could cover a lot of ground with very little effort. And the moment was magical. There was our creature. There was the beginnings of it. There was a creature that could run like the wind. From the basic look of a man on stilts, we developed the Landstrider.
It was a big problem to figure out how to put him totally inside of this body. And then, of course, once we got him inside the body, if he were to fall over, he would break his neck. So we had to always have a safety wire. So they're wearing a flying harness inside with a single wire going up, with this enormous crane, which had a great big arm that went out. But then they're supposed to be traveling very fast. And so in order to travel very fast, we had to have this wire travel fast above, and a pulley that ran above the Landstriders.
The sun goes down,
One bunch of characters that Sarah meets in the Labyrinth is called the Fire Gang. When we first came up with them, we didn't know how they were going to move.
And then they sing this song saying, lift your feet, lift your head. And I thought, ooh, it'd be a good idea if they lifted their heads up off their shoulders as they sang that.
That was part of the original problem of how to do that, creating this whole thing that would come apart and be put together in different ways.
Back, and then he pulls forward, and then we go back.
When we first came up with these characters, we didn't really know how they would move. We had to put a series of puppeteers working with them just to figure out how they would move, what they were capable of. We tried manipulating them in different ways, attaching the feet to the puppeteer's feet, working the feet with rods, and we found each way of operating them would create different kinds of movement.
The clap might be a problem.
A lot of the decision was how were they supposed to move? And what we ended up with, of course, was a great combination. And so the rehearsals were quite useful because they discovered a lot of different configurations and movements. Oh, yeah, we'll redistribute them. Obviously, to shoot the Fire Gang, we have to hide the puppeteers. So we had them all wearing black velvet. Now, velvet is probably the blackest fabric that you can use, and so that's what they had to wear. The set itself had to also be covered with black, and we had to get rid of anything reflective, any little white dots or anything like that would show up. We shot the puppets first with a computerized camera, and then we removed the black velvet and shot the background using the computer to make the camera move at exactly the same speed and so forth. And all of these elements were put together later in the laboratory. Well, Hoggle is certainly the most complicated puppet creature we've ever built. It's the most technically elaborate face because we've put about 18 motors in there to control all the different portions of the face with these 18 motors and 4 people operating that from outside by radio control. It creates enormous problems in just trying to figure out how to make that into one expression.
The Hoggle crew are 5 performers, one of which is really an actress, Sherry. She's inside the costume. She does all the body movement, and her head is inside the head. However, the jaw is not connected to her jaw. Nothing that the face is doing has any connection with what she's doing with her face. The other 4 members of the crew are all radio crew, myself included. 5 performers trying to get one character out of one puppet. It's a very tough thing.
That makes it worse! That makes it
Basically, what it takes is a lot of rehearsing and getting to know each other, getting to know each other's timing, so that when I go, here, you know, something like that, the eyes go, here, you know, and Sherry goes, here, and, you know, everybody does it at the same time, and they all know that it's going to come, and they know exactly what it's going to sound like and all that. That took a lot of rehearsal.
Ain't it? Now, would you go left or right? Tell you what, you give me the bracelet, and I'll show you the way out of the labyrinth.
You were gonna do that anyway.
Yes, well, that's what would make it a particularly nice gesture on your part.
No.
The Gorgs of Fraggle Rock are a remarkable combination of puppetry, mime, and technological wizardry. They represent the state of the art in all those fields, and are among the most sophisticated puppets we've ever created. We needed giant characters who had complete freedom of movement and at the same time expressive faces, and we needed to find a way to allow two performers to control the same puppet. The three giant costumes are worn by performers who are skilled in dance and body movement. The costume will permit them to make the oversized, almost slapstick movements required of the characters. Now, when you're wearing one of these Gorg heads, it's very difficult for the performer inside to see out. So we've devised something we call Gorg Vision. We have a little tiny television camera that's located here looking out of the Gorg's eye. And that transmits to a picture that goes down to a monitor that's mounted right in front of the performer's eyeball. Not only does this permit him to see, but it raises his sight line to Gorg's eye height. When he looks at something, the character's eyes also seem to look at it. Now suited up, the performer inside will create half of the Gorg's performance, the movement of the arms, legs, and body. The other half of the performance is created by the puppeteers, while they operate a specially designed radio remote control, which controls the eyes and mouth of the Gorgs.
Since the very beginning of the Muppets, Jim Henson used all of the techniques that television had to offer to make the impossible possible. One of these techniques is known as chroma key. The basic idea is that the camera ignores one color in a scene, usually blue, and replaces it with something else. In this rare behind-the-scenes look at a Muppet Show rehearsal, notice how chroma key replaces the blue background with the western skies. The camera also ignores the supports beneath so that it seems as if Bob Hope is really riding the Muppet horse.
Don't fence me in.
Fraggle Rock used the latest blue screen technology called Ultimat to make even more impossible things possible. The edges around the characters became cleaner, and shadows could even be cast on the background. What chroma key made possible, Ultimat made believable. In 1988, Jim Henson created The Song of the Cloud Forest, an entire television special using Ultimat, replacing the plain blue background with incredible computer-generated graphics. When all the pieces are in the right place, the result is an incredible blend of puppetry and television wizardry.
What's so damn funny?
Here comes the front group first, and then the back group. Now, happy holiday. And the back group. Happy holiday. That front group. Happy holiday. Back group. Happy holiday. Everyone. May the calendar keep bringing happy holidays to you. Okay, everyone relax, please. We'll be together at Christmas. Some things change with passing years, but this feeling stays. Jim, you okay?
Yourself a merry little Christmas. Let your heart be light. From now on, our troubles will be out of sight.
Ah, sorry, blew that.
Yep, here we go. 2, 1, act.
This is my dog Sprocket. He is not a Christmas turkey.
Just make a fifth for news.
I don't care if the turkey said the dog is a turkey. The dog is not the turkey. The turkey's the turkey. You turkey. Come on.
Just make a gobbly goofy roofy.
Over there where you were, over here. Could that monitor come all the way to here?
No, that wouldn't go out. Maybe they can put it through the wire.
Well, whatever you think, Carol. Whatever you think is fine by me. Whatever you want. Right, Jim?
Oh, sure.
Whatever you say, Carol.
Carol, you're
Whatever
really
you want.
directing the scenes.
Carol, what do you think? How do you think my hand should go?
Well, I haven't liked anything you've done.
Carol.
I'll change it.
Whatever you want.
Hammer the bird into it.
Carol.
Now, wait, right, do it like Carol says.
I'm sorry.
That's something
Carol.
I'll be in my room.
Thanks, guys.
Paint that brown. Why don't we spray that brown?
Knock,
It's
knock.
not going to dry in there. It's the kind of rubber that never dries. It'll get all over.
Did you wish to see me about something, Mr. Cook, sir? Boy, I guess this is the place where you're going to cook the big Christmas dinner, huh?
Let's take one of our regular characters. Say, for example, Gonzo.
Gonzo? What about Gonzo?
Well, Gonzo doesn't have real hands.
Not have real hands? Wait a minute, that's a ludicrous thing to say. This man is deranged. Of course I have real hands. Look, see?
They're just little bits of fur fabric that are controlled by arm wires.
Arm wires? Arm wires? That's ridiculous. Do you see any arm wire? Never mind.
So, if we want to have Gonzo do something really simple, say, for example, answer the telephone. Well, this is what we have to do. We have to have him reach over and place his hand on the receiver. Then we stop tape, attach the hand to the phone, move the camera to another angle, and tape Gonzo picking up the phone. It looks something like this.
Hello? You don't say. Hello? You don't say. Hello? You don't say.
Who was it?
You didn't say.
You really notice the tape edits when you do several in a row.
Gonzo, you know better than that. Never leave the room while your hand is still glued to the telephone.
Computer animation has been around for a while, and it's getting better and better every year. I love what's being done with it. But it is mostly being done like animation, where it's worked in 24 frames a second and it's seen as